Okay. Yes. So for people who just joined, just to let you know that I'm sure you've probably gathered, but that I'm going to be taking over the session for Vigimala today. I'm not entirely sure where she is or what she's up to, but she texted me and said that she is good and at the beach. So um, everybody needs to worry about Vigimala. Sounds like she's doing fine. Um, so some people in. Yes. Oh, well, you need somebody on tech support, so you don't have to do everything yourself at the same time. Okay, there we go. So, yeah, so something I thought would be quite fun to do today is, well, a bit of background first of all. So, in kind of meditation literature, kind of research, they tend to kind of break down different styles of meditation into three kind of broad categories, which is focused attention. So that's kind of where you have one object, like the breath or kind of the body scan, um, um, where you're kind of like noticing sensations and kind of body parts, part by part, or loving kindness or something like that. But you have one kind of object that you kind of resting attention on and kind of keeping it there. Uh, Another one is open monitoring. So that's where you are kind of not looking for anything in particular, but have a kind of just noting whatever arises. So it's kind of just listening out. It's kind of like, if you're like a bird watcher and you're listening to listening to what bird calls that might be around. You don't know what you're going to get, but you just kind of have open awareness. Um, the third type that we're not going to worry about is non-dual meditation, non-dual type meditation, which some of you have probably heard about or done some before, but we're going to leave that aside for the moment. So you've got focused attention, and open monitoring meditations. And most guided meditations are led with a kind of leaning towards one or the other. Um, and I think it could be very easy to get the impression that, uh, you know, you have the choice of doing focused attention or open monitoring, and they're kind of separate and very distinct. But I think most of the time you're going to be doing a bit of both. So if you're doing, a focused attention meditation, there's going to be some openness, some kind of awareness of what else is arising in the mind to be responsive um, to distractions. So you can sort of nudge attention back onto the objects, to kind of course correct. And similarly, when you're doing a kind of open monitoring meditation, there's usually some object that's going to be prominent in awareness. So whether that's the breath, or whether that's the body, or feeling of compassion or something like that, that's going to be sort of foremost or kind of prominent in the mind. And that's often a really useful thing to have, to kind of anchor the mind, to have something to sort of keep it steady, while you have this sort of open awareness around it. So it's not like you have the option of doing one or the other. You can be doing both, and they can be really supportive of each other as well. So it's not like you've got 10 attention points and you have to decide, okay, well, I'm going to spend 7 on focused attention and then 3 on the kind of open monitoring, and like the best way to do focused attention meditation is to spend all of your 10 attention points on the focused attention object. Try and cut out any surrounding awareness, kind of any monitoring that's going on around that. um, it doesn't work like that. And I'm sure, if you've been doing meditation for a while, which I think most of you have, you probably have a sense that these two modes can be really sort of supportive of each other, and that integrating them can make your experience of meditating much easier and more effective, and kind of more alive. So of course you can have the leaning, you can have the emphasis on one or the other, but it's useful to have an awareness just of that kind of dial, so that you can play with it and and just kind of ask the question of, okay, what's going to be supportive at the moment? Do I need maybe a little bit more focused attention to ground, to kind of anchor my mind, to keep it steady and stop it kind of floating away with distractions or sleepiness or whatever it is? Um, or maybe do I want a bit more kind of openness and a bit more of that open awareness? If you're kind of got this sort of contracted tunnel vision where you're sort of rigidly trying to hold to an object, then it's this sort of brittle attention, and maybe the mind needs a bit more sort of breathing room around the object of meditation. Is that making sense? So I thought it could be fun to just kind of just in this session just sort of play around with that dial a little bit between focused attention on one hand and kind of open monitoring on the other, and just get a sense of where it feels good, where it feels useful to have that dial at the moment. And again, so that's something that will change from day to day and minute to minute. It's not like there's one correct setting for it for the balance between these two, and it's something that we need to kind of bring responsiveness and curiosity to. It's kind of like trying to tune a radio, and then if you move it to a different place or just for some reason on a different day, it just requires a slightly tuning. So it just requires that kind of sensitivity and playfulness and just kind of experimenting around with it. So that's what we're going to do, and we'll start with a short kind of focused attention practice, and then we'll kind of switch to more of an open monitoring practice, and then we'll kind of just sort of start fiddling with this dial to see what happens. So if you want to find a comfortable position that you can meditate in if you're not in one already. So you can close your eyes if that's comfortable. Start off just taking a couple of deep breaths. And noticing in the body if there's anywhere it feels especially tense or tight. Seeing if you can invite some relaxation there. Starting off approaching the mind and the body with kindness. So now bringing attention to the sensations of the breath, wherever feels comfortable for you to pay attention to them. And just allowing attention to rest in the sensations of breathing. So you could drop this question: what are these breath sensations actually like? Breath to breath, moment to moment. No two breaths are ever exactly the same. Just bring that curiosity, that interest to this breath. And doing whatever is supportive. If you like counting the breaths, you can do that. You might like to try and find exactly where the in breath and the out breath start and stop. It's moment by moment, noticing the details, fine details, the sensations of breathing. The mind wanders, just very gently letting the distraction go, bringing the attention back. Yeah. Okay, so now switching from this focused attention practice to more of an open monitoring practice. So allowing the breath to stay in the background and just kind of listening out to whatever arises in the mind. So that wherever the attention is drawn, that's to sounds, sensations, thoughts, emotions, just seeing what arises with this broad, open awareness and just allowing whatever arises to arise. Just listening to the mind, never quite know what will arise next in consciousness. Just having that openness, that sensitivity to notice whatever it is that arises next. So just noticing and letting go, noticing and letting go. You might take a moment just to appreciate the different flavor of this practice compared to the focused attention practice. So maybe it's find it easier or more enjoyable, just noticing difference. And then going back to practice, noting whatever it is that arises next, keeping that open awareness. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the focused attention practice. So we're going to go back to the breath sensations, so noticing in breath, noticing the out breath, being interested specifically in the breath sensations, letting them come back to foreground in attention. And right away, just noticing if there's any difference in how your experience of the meditation is going back to this practice after the open monitoring practice. So maybe that you don't notice any difference, and that's okay, but just being sensitive to what your experience is as you go back to this. So now, as we're back paying attention to the sensations of the breathing, see if you can just turn that dial very slightly to introduce a little bit of that open awareness, even while you're keeping attention on the sensations of breath. Just introducing a little bit of that open awareness that was present in that last practice, seeing how that affects the experience of the breath, the experience of meditation. Something you may find is that with that extra space in the mind, thoughts can arise and sensations, sounds can arise in that space without pulling attention away from the breath, the mind can accommodate objects arising even while your attention is staying with the breath sensations. So now let's try for a few moments going back fully to open awareness practice. So again, you can drop the breath, just go back to this open awareness, this listening to the mind. Spaciousness. And now introduce from this open awareness practice just a little bit of focused attention on the breath. So just very slightly turning that dial, introducing a slight emphasis on the sensations of the breath, even while you're keeping that open awareness of what the mind is doing, whatever arises in the mind, with this particular awareness as well on the breath sensations. So something you may find is that the breath gives you a steady anchor to keep the mind steady while you're doing this open awareness practice. So we're now in the last 5 minutes, feeling free to move that dial wherever feels most comfortable, wherever feels right for you right now. So if you prefer to turn it all the way to either the focused attention or all the way to the open awareness practice, feeling free to do that, feeling free to just find wherever the right balance is for you at the moment, whichever feels good. Balance between attention and awareness. Okay. So is the practice coming to an end? Just in your own time, having a stretch, wiggling your fingers and toes, opening your eyes when you're ready. So yeah, curious to hear how that was for you. Thought there's a lot of switching between practices there, so I think keeping you on your toes a bit. I hope it wasn't too much. It's, yeah. So, but thanks for coming, everyone, and Video Mala, we'll be back next week to do this, I believe. So, um, yeah. So thanks for that. I'm just reading the nice comments in the chat. So, it's 7:30, so I'll leave you there. But yeah, thanks again, and take care, and see you guys next week.